how he was prophetic. I'm really curious to see how he was prophetic into
So,
the
I
culture.
mean, one of the things that he said back in the 1930s, for example, was that, the next big crises that Western civilization is going to face is going to be a crisis around the meaning and significance of sexuality, the sexual revolution. He saw that
Wow.
coming in the 1930s, where he basically, and this is after World War One, it's before World War Two, where he recognized, the next insanities in his mind were not going to come from Germany as much as they were going to come from Manhattan. Like he recognized and saw ahead of time this sense in which the world, and I mean, and he even says things even in Orthodoxy and in other books that pretty soon common sense things are going to be turned upside down, and the very definitions of words are going to change. That we're going to have where people will be driven out of society basically by stating what's obvious and what everyone knows to be true. Like that, the actual common sense truths will become uncommon, and there will be all sorts of things that are, because they're ideologically driven, will be this sort of facade that becomes what's taken for reality. And so you read some of these lines and some of these statements from 80, 90, 100 years ago, and you think, it's as if he were looking 100 years into the future and was seeing a lot of what was happening. But it's because he had this mind that could trace out the philosophical endpoints of a lot of what he was doing. I mean, not all of Chesterton's work fits that prophetic nature, but I mean, he saw, for example, that he thought, he wrote a book called Eugenics and Other Evils, in which he was really taking on the entire progressive establishment of his day in saying eugenics is dastardly. It's an extraordinarily pernicious and insidious ideology. And all the progressives at the time were lined up pro eugenics, that we've got to sort of create a better humanity by weeding out the less desirables and whatnot. And Chesterton saw that eugenics, its connection to birth control and then abortion as well, was going to create a society that would move in that direction. And so after World War II, of course, eugenics became unpopular, at least in the form that it had been in the 20s and 30s. But it still has not been unpopular. It's been actually extraordinarily successful when you look at at what's taken place in society since then, and even some of the rationale and reasoning behind some of the court decisions that we've had in the United States around abortion and things like that, as to the populations that are more affected than others and what that actually looks like. Or even when you see, people in different or cheering on different countries where people will say, oh, Down syndrome has almost been eradicated in Sweden or whatnot. And it's like, no. We've merely killed all the people that would have had Down syndrome. That all of that is present in Chesterton's foresight. And so, extraordinarily interesting individual with a lot of insight into what was coming in the future.